All right, welcome back everybody. So we have the airbrushing component done. We've got our mech sealed with a matte varnish. Had to unplug the microphone because I was getting a fair bit of static feedback from my lights, unfortunately. But I think you should be able to get a good view of this guy. So I've got a couple paints. I've got my some paper towel here, some water off to the side. I've got my wet palette, which is pretty essential, I think, for keeping your paint usable and having nice consistent consistencies. So I've got a dark blue that we use for airbrushing. Chimera Colors blue. I've got this Scale 75 blue, probably for a bit of a secondary highlight. Usually when I do edge highlights, I'll do two. I'll do a full pass throughout the whole mini of one, usually the upper tier of whatever color we were highlighting with the airbrush. I'll do the same thing again by brush with edge highlights, and then I'll do a more exaggerated, stronger one with something lighter color. I'm not doing the same thing in all the different locations, so I'm not going to cover 100% of the panels with one and then do the exact same with the next color. It's kind of redundant. You're going to cover up a lot of your work. But what we're going to do is we're going to do the first pass, and then the second pass we're kind of just really focus on the parts of the model that grab your attention, and the parts of the model that would have the most light exposed to them, I guess. So anything that I wanted to really stand out, like the edge of torsos maybe, tops of the shoulders, sharp edges, arms, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's a bit of a lengthy process. If you wanted to, you could do it pretty quickly. You could cruise through with just one color if you really wanted to get it through fast. Ooh, let's go red here. So this blue is very strong pigment wise, as we were saying last time. I'm gonna get a little bit of white, just to kind of bring it up a little bit brighter, because as is, it's probably going to be darker than a lot of the panels we're painting on. And then I've got a size 0 brush. You can use wherever you're comfortable with. I like to use something that's got like a nice sharp point on it. Well, I guess it's 3-0, 000. Different brands have different actual sizes when it comes to their namings. All right, so I'm gonna get a little bit of water here as well. This is just like water, matte medium, and I believe a little bit of flow aid I put in too. You could just use straight water if you wanted to. This is kind of like Lamia medium that GW sells. I just make it at home because it's much cheaper. All right, so we'll get a little bit of blue started here. Okay, and we'll mix a little bit of white in. So I still want a fairly deep blue. And then we're going to check it on our panel. So I usually start off pretty low down. Down on the leg, we'll say. We'll go for this side panel here. So I'm going to sketch this down, see how it looks. Yeah, that looks not bad. It's not super bright. I'm just going to test on a few more panels here. I want to make sure that if I put this across the whole model, it's going to be a highlight for all the parts. I think that looks solid there too. I think this is kind of a unifying blue. Yeah, that looks good. So I think we're safe to do this around the whole model, and then we're going to pick out some specific parts with a lighter blue afterwards. So generally, let's start down on the feet. Bottom of one leg, do that leg all the way around, work my way up, do the pelvis, jump across to the other leg. So I'm just using the edge of my brush. Sometimes the point, if the model has fairly soft edges or fairly soft details, you kind of have to like draw your own details on. These ones are pretty good. They have a lot of character, but a lot of the details do get lost kind of in the soft casting or the soft material. And I'm generally doing 3 sides to every panel. So if I have a panel, I'm going to do the top side, the side, or the top of it, and then the 2 sides. I generally won't do the bottom. Sometimes if it's a If it's one where I think it'll look better if I do it, then sure I'll give it a once over with the darker color at least for sure. But I won't do the bottoms of panels with the lighter color we come back with. And it's can be a very time-consuming process. So a lot of people will choose to just dry brush instead. The majority of the model, I'm going to mix in a little bit more white. Yeah, probably see that a little bit better. There you go. So I'm just mixing a little bit more white. It's a little bit too dark in some spots there. Oh, that's too... a little too bright. If you make a mistake, just grab a brush off to the side, wet it, you can wipe it off quick. That's the nice part about us having it matte varnished before we get into this step. Easy to fix any mistakes or any slip-ups we have. And then consistency is big. That's a little bit too thin, I think. You want your paint thick enough that it's going to actually paint nicely on a line when you do your edges, but you don't want it too thick that it's going to gob on there with a thick texture. It feels too runny. Too runny to me. I'm going to pull some of the paint back down here. Yeah, doing it on a wet palette is nice. Definitely keeps your paint much more usable state for longer periods of time. A lot of times as I get close to an area, I'll kind of I'll get my brush loaded with paint, and then I'll kind of air sketch above the actual panel line that I'm planning on doing, and I'm kind of sketch it in place, and then I move it, half a millimeter closer, sketch it in place again, half millimeter closer. That way when I make contact, it's like very, very briefly, and I'm getting just the right amount of paint on it. I don't want to stab in or kind of wipe down too aggressively, because that could splotch a giant amount of paint on there and really ruin the effect of all the airbrushing that we've done previously. Because the whole point is to smoothly do your transitions with your airbrush and then come in and just highlight them with a brush. And the nice part about having it on a cork is we can spin it around, upside down, get all the places. It's a little bit tougher to reach if it's still on its base. So I'm just going to get a little bit more paint down here, mix it up again. Looks okay. And I definitely spin it around, flip it around. I like to see a lot of different angles just to see if there's anything. Sometimes I'll see a spot that I haven't got, but in my mind, no one's going to see that area. So I really won't worry about getting a full pass around there, but I will try and get as many as I can. Sorry for the chirping in the background. I've got a smoke alarm with a low battery, but it's 20 feet up in the air on our vaulted ceiling here. I don't have any scaffold at the moment to change the battery. Yeah, generally I'll put on like a show or something. So I'll watch some TV or listen to loud music or something while I'm doing this, because it's not tedious. Like I enjoy it. I especially enjoy the end result. I think it looks really nice, but I can definitely see how a lot of people get bored doing it. but it's not something I enjoy rushing through. As with our airbrushing steps and phases, we want to make sure we're being careful and concise because everything builds off of the previous layers of what you've done. And the more you rush, the more touch-ups or fixes you're going to have to do, or the less detail you're going to have at the end. So we'll do this blue highlighting, and then we'll get into our red and blue stripes after that, and then I think we'll seal the model again with some varnish at that point. That way, if we handle it a fair amount, we're not going to have to worry about it rubbing off any detail or paint. I was trying some blue paint mixes earlier this afternoon on the big Highlander from the video there, and I definitely noticed that after I had done its feet, I was touching it with my hands, even wearing gloves just to help mitigate the movement and the handling. It was still rubbing off paint in some spots. So. Yeah, and generally you're just dragging the edge of your brush along the panel edges, but a lot of these are pretty soft shapes. Or spots too, like this panel here where we had to cut it off with our hobby knife. It was supposed to be like a nice flat panel, but it had a mold line. And then we cut it off with a knife, and then now it's looks like some kind of like obsidian axe edge with a bunch of chips on it there. But we can just use our sharp tip brush here and just kind of sketch in a flat, sharp edge, and then no one will be none the wiser, right? So we're looking to maintain our nice dark blue in the recesses, hitting all the edges with this medium blue. And then we'll pick out the details with a light blue. And I think we'll still come back after and we'll do an all over black oil wash, or you can do an enamel wash or something like that. At the end, to tie it all together, a lot of the steps by themselves don't seem to do much, but all together cohesively they really add up to a smart looking model. And I believe we want him looking his best. I'm pretty sure it's Hanse Davion's BattleMaster. So he's a big deal. We should help him reflect his status in his paint job here. Still looking for edges. Yeah, the very undersides you don't have to worry too much about. I'll still try and get at least single lines on large panels. I don't see a lot of people picking up and looking at the underside of your stuff, but hey, if they do, at least we'll have some detail for them to look at, right? I try and batch paint things as much as I can. I don't paint a lot of single models. I tend to do more everything in either a lance configuration. So if I'm painting inner sphere stuff, I'll always paint at least 4 mechs, but usually 8 or 12. I usually try and shoot for like a company. If I'm painting stuff for fun or a commission or something like that, I'll try and lump together a good chunk, do them all at once. That way they all look the same, they all match color-wise. It's a good idea to keep a painting journal, but I've been doing that the last couple years. Just anytime you paint something, keep a record of the paints you used, the order that you applied them. Even small little details you think you'll be able to remember. You'd be surprised after you jump through so many projects. Keep that in frame, sorry. After you jump through so many projects, it definitely all gets jumbled up in your head a little bit. Alright, so the legs are looking pretty good. It's a little bit rough in some spots. That's partly me trying to paint underneath this camera, but also partly just the shape of the plastic on some of these parts. It looks fine. Yeah. I'd probably be a little more in depth usually, but I don't want to make you guys sit here and listen to me go on and on too long, so let's jump up to the top. Gonna mix in some more dark blue. It's a little too bright there. A little too bright. We'll get up to that bright, but I don't want to get there yet. It looks nice and... There you go. Yep, that's better. A little bit darker. Perfect. Perfect. So I try and bounce back and forth to do things symmetrically. So if I'm painting, you know, three lines or three edges of a component on one side, I'll flip around. I'll do the same on the other side. That way I know that I'm always getting everything that I need to be tackling. At least on the torso and the back. And you may think it looks like a roller coaster flipping around so much, but the lights can be a little bit bright and shiny, and it helps to see things from all different angles, make sure you didn't miss anything. And I don't know where exactly we're going to be putting accents later specifically. I've got kind of a ballpark plan for general, like Davion tracksuit scheme here, of where I'm going to be putting the stripes, but I'll still paint everything and highlight everything as if it was all going to be blue. And that way, if there's a change up in the plan, I don't have to worry about going back and doing it later. It'll already be done. So if I come on if I'm doing the back here, I'm going to do all the vertical pieces here. I'll go across the whole thing. I'll do all of the vertical up and downs from the kind of this side, the left side perspective, like that. Cool. And then I'm gonna get some more paint, flip them around, and then I'll do all of the verticals from the right side perspective. Just helps me make sure that I get all the pieces I need to get. And again, I'm generally painting with the side of my brush. I will use the point to sneak into spots that I need to reach, or if it's a soft area like we were saying, and I need to introduce or draw in my own hard line, then I'll use the tip of my brush, but generally I'm using the side. Yeah, that looks really good. Some more on this kind of front grill here, or vent, whatever that is. Your assault mech air intake scoop. Sure. Machine guns. Oh, So mold line, we missed a little bit there. Oops. And using the side of my brush. Especially if the plate that you're painting is elevated a little bit compared to the ones around it. It's nice and easy to just get the very edge of your brush in there.